If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
And we are back. I'm Chris Evans, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, joined tonight by my good friend, pardon me, frog in the throat, my good friend Khalid Muhammad from CommandEleven Intel Organization in Pakistan. Below him, my good friend Randy Nantz from back home in Texas, Combat Wounded Green Beret. Below him, S2, and below him, our in-house CIA Operative Jeff Emde, aka 007, author extraordinaire. So we have a packed episode pardon me, for you all tonight. For the first hour, we're going to cover some stuff as far as updates on Charlie Kirk and his assassination, the shooter or the supposed shooter who there's a manhunt out for. Then in the second hour, we've got Roman Zrazhevskiy joining us from MIRA Safety. He's the founder and CEO. So for the second hour, it'll be Roman, Khalid, and I going through the next episode in our long war series, which is essentially community versus collapse. It's a scenario set after multiple complex coordinated terrorist attacks that we've been discussing, 10 to 15 cities simultaneously. We're going to cover mutual aid, OPSEC, neighborhood security, all kinds of stuff that will hopefully put you in a better position if and when you find yourself in one of those cities and people panic and water runs out and looters descend on your neighborhood, so on and so forth. So we're not going to do a conflicted question tonight. I want to jam as much as I can into this first hour before we bring Roman in for the second hour. So the very first thing I'm going to pull up is actually, you know what? Roman just is in the background here. Let me switch over and let's bring him on. I think we might have got our wires crossed, but that's okay.
Can you hear me well?
Yeah, we got you, Roman.
Awesome.
I wasn't expecting you till the second hour, but you're welcome to join us for the Charlie Kirk portion. Do me a favor, Roman. Let me get you over on our spotlight section here.
Sure.
And go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. So my name is Roman Zrazhevskiy. I am the founder and CEO of MIRA Safety. I've been in the emergency preparedness space since 2013 with my first brand called Ready to Go Survival. Ready to Go Survival, we made custom bug out bags for people. And throughout that process, I have set up bug out bags and survival plans for thousands of people. And then in 2018, we pivoted and really kind of doubled down on the personal protective equipment market, specializing in protection, detection, and decontamination from chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear threats. That's what MIRA Safety handles. And we've been focusing on that ever since.
So, Roman, we haven't had a chance to discuss this, but our policy at Survival Dispatch is we're not in business to hurt other people's businesses. And less than 10% of the products that get sent to us ever make it on any of our channels. And so we've been sent masks by everybody out there. And I'm pleased to let you know, for example, I keep your C21 beside me at all times because I'm that guy. Awesome. But I give you guys kudos all the time because these are the only masks, the C21 and the CM8, that I can get a perfect cheek weld on without having to, try and accommodate a mask. So that's worth its weight in gold. But
absolutely, you may need to keep a beard trimmer in your kit though, because I know you like facial hair, and a lot of guys in the preparedness space love that as well. So if you just keep a beard trimmer in there, in a minute or two, you can get it down close enough to get a good seal. Yeah,
that's awesome, Roman. We've got some guys who are EOD techs and stuff like that, and they do that, absolutely carry the trimmers with them. On the side, by the way, Roman, since it's your first time with us, Khalid Muhammad up top, he was raised here in America. He's in Pakistan right now. He's the senior director at an intelligence group called CommandEleven. works with government agencies all the way from Europe to Indonesia, has boots on the ground in Afghanistan, and gets some incredible intelligence. If you know who Sarah Adams is, that's her guy in the Middle East. That's who gives her intel from there. Below that's a good friend of mine, Randy Nantz, a combat wounded Green Beret from back home in Texas. Below that, S2, who's like our anonymous intel guy. And below him, Jeff Emde, was a 26-year CIA operative. Just so you know what company you're in. So we're going to jump right into this Charlie Kirk stuff right away. And Khalid sent a video that Fox News did today as a tribute. Normally we wouldn't play a video quite this long, but we're going to tonight because it's important. So here we go. This is from Fox News, and this is basically a tribute to him.
Charlie Kirk is being remembered tonight as a hugely influential, charismatic, and engaging individual committed to civil discourse and the open exchange of ideas. Correspondent Mark Meredith looks back at the life of Charlie Kirk. Good evening, Mark.
Right, good evening to you. Charlie Kirk's death is being called a watershed moment or even a turning point for the country. The 31-year-old political activist had a massive following, both online and in the corridors of power here in Washington. Before becoming a household name in conservative politics, Charlie Kirk was a teenager growing up in the Chicago suburbs. He told the Daily Caller in 2019 he knew early on politics mattered.
I was always naturally conservative, loved America, loved the values that our country stood for, and I never understood why you'd want to deviate from that.
Kirk thought he'd end up at West Point, the Army's military academy, but after being denied admission, he chose to start something for himself.
It's that old adage, one door closes, another door opens. Of course, it's correct.
In summer 2012, Turning Point USA was born. What started small later became a political juggernaut, a conservative youth activist organization now operating on 3,500 high school and college campuses. Kirk explained what drove him in his first Fox appearance 13 years ago.
A lot of kids are feeling the effects of what we like to call, with the Washington economy, with a lot of debt, plummeting small business, with higher regulation and high taxes.
As the Tea Party movement evolved, Turning Point USA grew. So did its influence. The AP writing Turning Point events became more ornate, taking on a nightclub atmosphere with strobe lights, pyrotechnics, and thousands of young conservatives in attendance. Kirk endorsed then-candidate Donald Trump in 2016 and later worked to re-elect him in 2020.
I believe it's imperative we get the president reelected. In fact, I think he's going to get reelected.
As Trump later regrouped for 2024, Kirk continued to build an empire and a family. He married his wife, Erica, in 2021 and later became a dad of 2. Trump himself thanked Kirk for staying loyal amid a year of chaos.
And I want to express my tremendous gratitude to Charlie Kirk. He's really an amazing guy.
With Trump now back in power, Kirk remained active, speaking out constantly about the conservative movement.
There's a revival happening in this country right now.
Tonight, tributes continue to pour in for a man many believe helped change the course of U.S. political history. And those tributes continue to pour in from all over the world. Late today, we heard from...
So, Roman, we did a special episode on this last night, and everybody's had a chance to speak with regards to, their overall thoughts on this disaster, tragedy. So I'm going to start with you and just get your take on the seriousness of this. I personally feel like we've crossed the Rubicon.
Yeah, it's a very serious, heartbreaking situation. I honestly didn't know too much of Charlie Kirk. I did not watch too much of his content leading up to, his murder here. I was a big Ron Paul guy growing up. Actually, the way I got started, and one of the core reasons why I'm in this industry is because I believe in governments. They can fail at any moment. Things can happen, and it's a tragedy. It's senseless. It needs to end. We need to really figure out who's doing this. And to me, I don't want to get conspiratorial, but it seems like this is an orchestrated thing that's much larger than just a rogue extremist, in my humble opinion.
I don't disagree with you, Roman. So, Khalid, I'm just going to go straight down the side and give everybody a chance to speak to the tribute, at the very least, of what Fox just put up and anything new that's top of mind for you.
Look, no matter what you say about Charlie Kirk, it's not enough. the impact he had on society, it's just unbelievable. It's really sad to see the way the left is using Charlie Kirk's murder to motivate their own people, and to target other conservatives. I agree with Roman. As much as I've looked at, as much as I've seen, this is not a single shooter. This was a team operation. There are too many breadcrumbs leading into too many different rabbit holes, that once this 48-hour block that we put down that says, no, we're not going to believe anything for the first 48 hours because a lot of disinfo, misinfo comes out. I think once we lift that and we start talking about it, we're going to find what really drove this story. It's a huge loss, no matter how many ways you look at it, for whether you look at it from his family, to the youth of America, to the leadership of America, to the future leadership of America. The loss of Charlie Kirk will be felt for a long time.
Agreed. Agreed. Randy, you've had 24 hours to stew on this now. You were pretty upset last night, as much as the rest of us, and probably more upset than I've seen you in 10 years. How are you feeling now that you've had a chance to sit on it for a day?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's dissipated a whole lot, because you see everything going on with people. Now, I'm glad there are some people getting fired that are in positions. When you say those kind of things, you need to get fired. Should have been done a long time ago. But at least there's some tiny little of accountability. But I'm going to have to agree with both Khalid and Roman. You look at even the old man, right? He obviously was there to draw the attention of security and police so that the real sniper could get out of there. Otherwise, why would he have been saying, I have the right to remain silent as they had him on the ground? Why would you be saying that if you didn't know why they were on top of you or you weren't part of it? So this definitely was probably part of a bigger plan. And, I hear all what the left is saying, but you got to realize, man, this guy, wasn't national TV, but with the internet today and social media, this guy was murdered on national TV, basically in front of everybody, right there on a university in the middle of the day, and if you don't see what's wrong with that, you are the problem. You are part of the problem. And so I just hope that, that we're able to resolve this fairly quickly and that some other measures are taken, because as we spoke before we went online here, with that event, it's like what I mentioned last night, and even the first Civil War. Once you spill blood is thirsty for more blood. It's kind of a human nature thing. It's what happens. And so we are sitting at a very volatile moment right now. I can promise you, in my opinion, I think that it's only going to take one more thing like this to set something off that none of us are going to be able to stop. And that's where we are, unfortunately. So I'm just like everybody else. I'm praying that we make the right moves here and that our elected officials and all of our other, people in positions of authority make the right decisions and the moves here so that we can hopefully back or sidestep our way out of the situation that just about kicked off yesterday.
Yeah, just one quick comment. I think just as bad or worse than this happening in front of the world was that it happened in front of his wife and children, and that his daughter ran towards him to try and help him. I mean, it's heartbreaking stuff. So S2, you're the master of pragmatism when it comes to stuff coming from a strong intel background. There's a lot of disinformation floating around. Can you clear some of it up for us?
I don't know that I can yet, because the 48 hours has not passed. Between me and Khalid today, we've been collecting and cataloging a lot of this so-called evidence that's out there. And so far, there are some questionable things that I've been seeing that Khalid and I have been bouncing back and forth this morning. But I don't see anything conclusive. There was a picture of the rifle that was recovered that the FBI released. That is total bullshit. The scope on it was mounted all wrong. The rings were mounted up next to the turrets on it. It was mounted on scope rings that were too low that you can't even open the damn bolt. That was a leave behind weapon. It was meant to be found on purpose. That's probably about the only thing that I can say that I understand to be real at this point.
So I've been swamped all day. Didn't have a chance to look at that as to, was it as bad as Ryan Roof's? How did he have his scope attached again? What was it, with tie downs or something?
Bungee cords.
Bungee cord.
No. Ruth had an SKS, so there's really only one way to mount a scope to that, and that's not even reliable. But the scope, it was mounted with proper rings. It had a variable optic scope on it. But it was meant, like I said, the rings that were mounted with it were too low. The scope was mounted too far back. There was no eye relief really, and the only reason I could see it being that far back was because maybe he was trying to keep a low profile, and sometimes that's a one-off necessity to do that. But you couldn't even open the bolt on that rifle the way that thing was set up.
Oh wow. Yeah, I appreciate that. Like I said, I've been swamped all day. Jeff, you've had a day to sit on this now. What are your thoughts? You're on mute. You're on mute, Jeff.
Sorry, I can't speak to the evidence that's been collected. I haven't really seen it. I mean, there's photos here, photos there, and there's so much contradictory stuff out there. You have to just wait for it to settle out a little bit. But the responses, I think, what they really do is, and the only good thing to come out of this is the ghouls and the evil SOBs can't help themselves.
Yep.
And so they're exposing themselves.
Yep.
And that is both in private citizens and in the media. And shockingly, MSNBC did the right thing and fired that Dowd guy immediately. There needs to be a lot more of that. But I think the country is fed up, and I think these news organizations realize when somebody comes out and says something really insensitive and really stupid, which they do, if they don't fire them, they're going to reap the whirlwind, because you're seeing, MSNBC's MS now, because it's been spun off, and the parent companies aren't going to put up with this, because they're not. The people who own these outlets are not the true believers of yesterday, quote unquote, true believers, fellow travelers in the Soviet parlance. These are people who say, I spent X billions of dollars for this and I want to make a profit. And when you do really stupid crap like you're doing, I don't make money. Therefore, you're fired. And I'm hoping sanity returns to some of these media companies.
Yeah, likewise.
I'd like to add something to what Jeff is saying here. The most surprising thing that I've seen out of this crap today has been the response out of some of our military personnel. I personally turned in two Marine Corps officers today to the Commandant of the Marine Corps for the bullshit they were spewing. This is in our military. It's got to get out.
Well, there was a Secret Service employee who was dropping shit, and it's like, well, you're going to be gone because they can just fire you for unprofessional behavior. But my thing is, if you're Secret Service and you're spouting off about this crap, I can't trust you to protect anybody.
That's right.
Yep, 100%, 100%. All right, so the next media up is Donald Trump's speech that he gave yesterday. It's 4 minutes and 3 seconds long. I'm just going to play the first couple minutes, and then Roman, I'll pivot to you, and then Khalid, before I come to you, I'll play the next one. We're going to just do one for each person so we can get through this relatively quickly, so we can get through it before the sun comes back up again.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith, and we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the two young, beloved children, and his entire family, who he loved more than anything in the world. We ask God to watch over them in this terrible hour of heartache and pain. This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. His mission was to bring young people into the political process, which he did better than anybody ever, to share his love of country and to spread the simple words of common sense. On campuses nationwide, he championed his ideas with courage, logic, humor, and grace. It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. I wanted to get to that part, Roman, before coming to you, simply based on the fact that there's been a lot of discussion. I just caught out of my news TV over here today of people on the left saying that Donald Trump's speech was divisive, inflammatory, and they don't know what he's talking about. When he says that they've been inflaming the situation. I'm just curious what your take is on the state of our media, probably for the last 20 years, actually.
Well, personally, I try to not watch the media at all. I've been in a process of completely disconnecting. I'm disconnecting my personal Instagram, Facebook, and I'm really kind of just getting into my own world here, right, at MIRA Safety, trying to do what's best for my family, trying to do what's best for my business. And I really believe it's inflammatory on both sides, right, from both the left and the right, unfortunately, on the media. At the end of the day, very few corporations own all the media, right? So I tend to look at third parties that aren't mainstream to get my news sources.
Yeah, likewise. Well said, Roman, for sure. So Khalid, come to you next. And I've got the next video queued up. Just give me a second here. So Kayleigh McEnany chokes up in tears as she tells Fox News viewers exactly where Charlie Kirk is right now. 51-second video.
Charlie pointed up. He had this authentic, real love for Jesus Christ, and his conservative philosophy was an outgrowth of that. But he would go to these campuses. I would speak at his women's event, and he would speak to lonely people who were lost on social media, felt empty, felt depressed on college campuses, and he would give them hope in Jesus Christ. And the last thing I would say, Sean, is I know that I know that I know that I know this. Charlie Kirk did not die today. Yes, he left his body. But I guarantee you, when he took his last breath, the first words that he heard were Jesus Christ saying, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." I'm thinking of Erica. She's a beautiful, beautiful mom, a beautiful woman, beautiful writer. I'm thinking of his kids. But I know where Charlie Kirk is today, and he is very, very much alive.
Yeah, that's rough. So, Khalid, I don't know if you have any comments on that video or not. If not, we can skip forward, but it's up to you.
Let's move forward. Kayleigh said what she needs. She said what everybody's thinking.
Okay, so let's move into the manhunt then, just to keep things going here. And by the way, once again, Khalid saved the day on this portion of the podcast. He did all of the research on the Charlie Kirk stuff, and thank you very much, Khalid. I appreciate it. The longer the shooter remains at large, the more this begins to look like an organized operation designed specifically to sow ideological and racial chaos in the U.S. Manhunt underway for shooter. A manhunt is still underway for the killer of Charlie Kirk, the influential right-wing broadcaster and political activist who played a key role in President Trump's election. Although 2 people were arrested, they've been released, meaning the murderer is still at large more than 12 hours after the shooting. Well, now more than 24 hours after the shooting. So maybe you could speak to that. Do you agree with that statement that the longer it goes, the more likely?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, okay. I do, because look, let's go back and play this back in quick time. You had that old guy arrested, who first thing out of his mouth was, "I have the right to remain silent." He was released. You caught 2 guys in the crowd that had BB guns. that stepped forward and said, I shot him. I shot Charlie Kirk. They were arrested. They were released. You literally, and I look at it from the point of view of like, if you were to run this as an intelligence operation, this is how you do it. You put patsies out to redirect the police away to create a path for your actual shooter to get out. I am still of the belief, and S2 can probably speak to this as well. I am still of the belief if this guy was a professional sniper, that gun was disassembled on the roof, dropped into different holes on top of that roof, and he disappeared into the wind, because he's not going to come downstairs with that gun with the police presence around, with the number of people around. There's no way he's coming downstairs with a gun. He disassembled that weapon and he dumped it on that roof someplace, and he came down and he disappeared, because you're 24 hours in and you still don't know who it is. No pictures, no video. What campus in the United States does not have cameras, surveillance cameras, where you can pick off who it is?
Yeah, but well said. And I don't mean to cut you short, but I want to get through as much as we can on the Charlie Kirk stuff. We've got 33 minutes, and then we're going to pivot into the main topic of the night, just you, me, and Roman, just so everybody knows what the plan is for tonight. And I don't mean the panel. I'm talking to our audience out there. So, Randy, I'm going to come to the next one here. This is a post that Khalid made earlier today. And I'm just going to summarize it quickly. With the cover of the September 29th issue of Time, a list of high-profile political assassination attempts in the past year on American soil, targeting mostly right-wing figures. So, obviously, we have the attempts on Donald Trump, Nick Fuentes. We've got the Melissa Hortman in Minnesota, and now we've got Charlie Kirk. And if you haven't seen the cover, there it is. Enough, the killing of Charlie Kirk and the epidemic of American political violence. Do you have any faith in Time as an organization to actually dial down the rhetoric at all?
Or any other mainstream media outlet or magazine, paper? No, I don't. I mean, as we mentioned already, they've helped cook this up for the last 20 years. They've been helping dial this up, and the rhetoric has all been one way. Now, today, as panelists have noted, and we've all seen it, now they're all denying it, including saying, most of these shootings are Republicans, when I don't think there's been one Republican yet in the last 20 years. I could be wrong, but most of them, and almost over 90% of those shooters, have been Democrats. And, the fact is, we saw NBC or MSNBC fire, but that guy was only an analyst. They didn't fire the anchor, who she also said some stuff in there, and she ran that little show. The producer should have also been fired, because they put that stuff on the air. They had to approve it first, and they let that guy on the air. And so we saw them do enough, because I think if you saw, certainly on X, man, there were all kinds of posts about MSNBC needs to lose their license. And that, and I chipped in on that, because it's true. They should. And, we should take it a step further. That's the only reason that guy came out and fired that analyst. That's the only reason. You mentioned the word, which is the main word on the Time cover, enough. And when I was putting the brief together, again, Khalid sent it, and then I kind of doctored it up. That word enough, to me, I don't think means the same thing as what they're trying to communicate. Myself, I'm sitting here thinking, enough of schools teaching our kids to hate their country and despise, their faith, the nuclear family. Enough of churches being mocked, marginalized, or turned into platforms for propaganda. Enough of entertainment designed to corrupt young minds and poison the next generation. That's what, when I hear the word enough, those are the thoughts that go through my mind. And I know that sure, we should cover all of it, not just the one, just not that somebody was killed. Yeah. Because as I mentioned, this was a whole ball. It wasn't just this one particular event that we've had enough of. We've had enough of it all, and I just want to address, there's been some comments in the thread, that people say, well, we're already at war. Yeah. Okay. Listen, folks, somewhat we are in a disagreement, but trust me, now, maybe you're talking like a Cold War where people are like jockeying in position, but you will know when we are actually at war, and we are not there yet. Thank God.
Thank God. Yeah. Agreed. All right. S2, next one up is for you. Let me just get it pulled up here. Bear with me. All right, here we go. So the next one here is a post from James Woods, an awesome American. Turning point 9/10/25 from A Muse, and it's pretty prophetic, I think, that Charlie Kirk will call his organization Turning Point. So James Wood well said, this is the turning point. Dear leftists, can we have a conversation or a civil war? One more shot from your side and you will not get this choice again. Clearly angry like many of us. Your thoughts on that? I know that you're trying to get people to dial it down a notch, and that's very altruistic of you. I just think people are really, really inflamed right now.
You're on mute, S2.
Yep. You're still on mute.
Working on it, running a manual mouse here. Yeah, I am trying to get people to dial it down. I have fought this battle before. I've been fighting it for the last, well, actually, when the 2020 election was stolen is when I started fighting that battle with people. Everybody was all up in arms about it. I started it at January 6th. I had people up there that I was there, okay? My only intent for being there was to stop people from fighting each other. I personally broke up numerous fights between leftists that were antagonizing the crowd. And I think it's extremely important that people understand, like Randy said, when something pops off here, you're going to know it. And you're going to wish you had never seen it. We don't want this here. And I'm talking to leftists. If any of them are watching, they're probably not, but you don't want this. Please stop, because I don't want it. My family doesn't want it. A lot of people don't want it. We were talking about the media a minute ago. Here's the funny thing: is a lot of these media outlets that are out there, they're on the left. They're a little leaning left. I'll give you one, for instance, TMZ Media. Yeah. They put out a lot of stuff out there when Trump got shot in Butler, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. A lot of shit that was wrong. Mm-hmm. Well, guess who owns that? Rupert Murdoch owns that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what else does Rupert Murdoch own?
Fox News.
So he's playing both sides of the fence with his organizations, and he needs to get his shit under control, or they need to lose their license too, because this is just fueling it. It's all it's doing.
It's theater, right? So yeah. Jeff, next one up for you here. This is from Sheldon Crowder this morning, and he says, my team received an email from an officer at the ATF and sent a screenshot down here of what's supposedly something in their record keeping system at the ATF, and goes on to talk with regards to this, old bolt action 30-06 found in the woods, which everybody's discussed. And I think the part out of it, though, that got me, Jeff, was they're saying that the shell casings were inscribed with, transgender stuff, basically pro-transgender, anti-everybody else stuff. That just seems way too convenient to me.
Yeah, it does. Although we did see the idiot who shot up the church in Minnesota had written crap all over his guns and everything else too. Yeah. And that was definitely him. They had videos of him with it in his hands and him talking about it. Thing about the transgender peoples, they want people to know they did it. They haven't tried to hide it. Now this guy, assuming he is, an anarchist type or an Antifa type, he doesn't want to get caught. But it's one of those, I don't want to get caught, but I want to take credit. It may be a little too convenient, but once again, we need to just wait and see what shakes out. I looked up, I pulled up a photo of the rifle they found. And yeah, it does look like it's a wee bit tight to work the bolt mechanism on that. I don't know. I haven't seen the gun up front. Up close, you need someone to work the action to see if it does work. But I've seen plenty of guns that when you mount the scope, you can't work the bolt, or you have to have an adjusted, bolt lever. So yeah, I don't know. I'm one of these. I'm going to wait until stuff shakes out. And what I'm looking at are other people's reactions right now, and because that is That doesn't have to shake out. They say what they say, and you listen to them, and they tell you who they are, and you got to note it. As far as who shot him, God, I hope they catch the son of a bitch, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, just one quick comment. Technically, you don't need to have a really functional bolt. I mean, you have to be able to close it, but you can put a round in with your hand through the ejection port and then jam it closed. And he only shot once, so
yeah, that's all he needed.
That's all he needed.
We talked about it yesterday, and I was like, well, he probably had a bolt action, because if you have a semi-automatic, like an AR-10 or something, you're going to probably launch your first aim shot and probably two more as insurance.
Right.
He only shot once.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll add something to that. You can't even open the bolt the way that scope is mounted on there.
Gotcha. I appreciate the clarification on that. So, Roman, I'm just going to pull up some pictures of who they're saying is the shooter. I don't know that there's any confirmation for sure that this is the guy. So they finally got some footage this afternoon. This is supposedly him. There are no pictures from any security cameras showing any weapons in his hands or anything to that effect. You'll notice how he's not touching anything here. Khalid was caught it with a sharp eye. Is if you look at all the pictures, either as his hands in fists or up his sleeves, he was working really hard trying not to leave his fingerprints on things.
It's tradecraft.
Yeah, there's $100,000 price on his head there. This video supposedly is when he's exfilling, but those pictures showed him with pants on. And if this is the same video I watched, isn't this guy in shorts? I'm not sure. So
this is actually,
were these images AI enhanced, or because it looks like some of them are kind of more pixelated, lower resolution, and the other ones are really sharp?
I can answer that for you, Roman. There's been some people out there that have been doing AI enhancements on these images. So there's a whole bunch of these images floating around out there. You have to look on the shirt and look for the eagle on the shirt.
Wow.
This is actually the FBI image. FBI Salt Lake City put this image out, so we know this is clean.
Okay.
I don't know about
that.
that.
That's certainly enhanced. That's the same.
That one is not. That one is not.
And my wife even pointed out, she goes, "These are way too clean. Someone's messed with these with AI."
Look at the time discrepancies in the Epstein videos. I know just because the FBI put it out, I don't think that makes it automatically believable. But let's watch this video quickly, and then Roman, I'm going to pivot to Alex Jones' comments that he made today and have you comment on that, because there's not a whole lot to comment on this other than what's already been said. But here's a 17-second video supposedly of the guy. Somebody claims that they saw him come off the roof.
Somebody over here. How would you run? There he is, right there.
Right there.
That guy.
Watch this. That guy's got shorts on.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's got a
backpack on
and short.
This video, Chris, if you look on X, there's a community note underneath this that this is actually a video from Las Vegas, a guy leaving a hotel.
Wow. So
yeah, look in the background. That's look at the mountains and stuff.
Yeah.
That's definitely a mountain back there.
Yeah.
This is exactly why we have this 48 hour, seal on.
Oh yeah.
That's what I was getting ready to say. So, all right, let's move into this and keep things going here. So, according to Alex Jones, the ATF DHS is now reporting the cold-blooded killer of Charlie Kirk is another psychotic trans activist. The rifle and ammunition found on the rooftop where the assassin took their shot are inscribed with radical trans language similar to the killer in Minnesota 2 weeks ago. 1 minute and 9 seconds.
Stephen Crowder is now exclusively reporting from ATF documents he got from the ATF confirmed that it was a trans shooter, they believe, because they found the rifle on the roof where we thought it came from, where everybody saw the person up there, left the rifle with all the trans carvings, just like the shooter up in Minneapolis a few weeks ago. They've been calling for their days of rage. They have been building up. They're very suicidal. They believe it's everybody's fault, and they've got to go out and kill. And so that's who they're after right now on the manhunt. We actually believe we know who it is. There was an individual that said on internet posts and social media that something big was going to happen that day who was trans. That's probably the main person, but there's going to be a lot more of this, folks. This is literally a zombie army of killers. And they're totally brainwashed. This is MK Ultra 2.0. Pray for Charlie Kirk and his family. Crowder's been covering live on his show. I'm about to shoot a large report on this. Harrison Smith's about to go live at Infowars.com/show and write her own Relux shows, all the details. I'll be in the office early. There's so much breaking news. Stay with us and follow me here on X.
So, Roman, it's interesting, Roman, that you don't consume a lot of the media, which is great for where I'm going to go with this. I'm a big believer in trusting your gut, and there's so much what I think of as theater. A lot of this seems very theatrical and staged, and a lot of contradictory stuff. What is your gut feel when Alex Jones, gets up there and says these things? Like, I'm having a hard time buying it, not because of Alex Jones, but I'm not. It feels like it's being engineered to me. What's it feel like to you as somebody who doesn't consume the stuff regularly?
Well, there's always the official narrative, right, and the reports that come out, and it seems like this ATF report is part of the official narrative that they're finding casings with some trans inscriptions on them. To me, it just seems like, if it were a trans person and the psychology of the trans person is to advance trans rights, right? Why would they want to commit murder and then sign their name on it as though they're advancing their rights through this type of activity? The whole thing just stinks to me. I don't believe it. I don't believe anything really official channels tell me, especially within the first week or two of information coming out. I feel that with more information, we get a lot more noise versus actual signal. So I think it stinks, man.
And I appreciate that, Roman, because you have kind of like an unfettered view on this, but what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you haven't been poisoned by the mainstream media. Yeah. So you've got like a clear view on this, and I appreciate that. And for those of you who are just joining us, I just saw a huge influx of people come. By the way, Roman, this is being broadcast out to 9 different platforms. Roman is the CEO and founder of MIRA Safety, premier company out there for safety stuff, especially PPE and whatnot. So, Khalid, coming to you next. Let me just get
Can I just comment on one thing real quick?
Yeah, sure.
The ATF report says the gun was found in the woods. It was not found on the roof.
Right.
And Alex Jones said it was found on the roof. Alex Jones is spinning a different story.
There were no shells, apparently. There were no shells on the roof either.
No, there was nothing up there.
Yeah.
It's Alex Jones writing his own headlines.
Yeah, crazy stuff.
They even said the gun they found in the woods had the spent round still in the barrel.
Yeah.
So what did you find on the roof?
Right. So we've only got 16 minutes left before we part ways with everybody, and Roman and Khalid and I dive into our next episode in the Long War 9/11 2.0 series. So let me pull this up for you, Khalid. Get your thoughts on this. So Patrick Bet-David warns that if a major left-wing influencer is taken out in coming days, it won't be by accident. He says it would prove that an outside country is actively trying to push America into a civil war. I don't know if this is the video or not, Khalid, but I did see a snippet from Patrick Bet-David, who said that he fears he's going to be the next one that gets taken out. So 18 seconds.
If an event like this happens to somebody on the opposing side the next 48 hours, the next week, think about the equivalent of Charlie Kirk on the other side. If an event like this happens on the opposing side, you have to know a country on the outside wants to see a civil war in America. That concerns me a lot.
I disagree with that, and then I'm going to pass it over to you, Khalid. It doesn't have to be somebody on the outside. It could be globalists working internally to America. So I don't necessarily buy that, but I want to hear what your thoughts are. This is your wheelhouse.
Well, look, this is the thing. I mean, you took out a very major person on the conservative right. Now, if you take out somebody on the far left, then someone is pushing you into each other. And because of the way this whole thing is played out, when you take out all the conspiracy theories, You had people jump up and say, I'm the shooter. You had a guy in the crowd jumping up and cheering when Charlie was shot. This is a distraction operation. And I honestly do not believe that you're going to catch the actual shooter. And I think Ben David's right. I mean, there is something cooking to push to push America to war, whether it be to go into a foreign war again, or to go into a civil war inside its own country. But America is being pushed towards war again.
Yeah, it seems like it. So, Randy, going to pivot to you next here. This is the video from the FBI's recovered a high-powered bolt-action rifle in a wooded area where the assassin fled after killing Charlie Kirk. The suspect is believed to be college-aged. Investigators have collected footwear impressions, a palm print, and forearm imprints for analysis. The FBI says 1 minute, 23 seconds.
Good morning. My name is Robert Bowles, and I am the special agent in charge of the Salt Lake Field Office.
Was that it?
Well, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Oh.
We are and will
Apologies.
continue to work nonstop until we find the person that has committed this heinous crime and find out why they did it. This morning, I can tell you that we have recovered what we believe is the weapon that was used in yesterday's shooting. It is a high-powered bolt-action rifle. That rifle was recovered in a wooded area where the shooter had fled. So the FBI laboratory will be analyzing this weapon. Investigators have also collected footwear impression, a palm print, and forearm imprints for analysis. Now, I understand there are a lot of questions about motive. I assure you that all leads, tips are being fully investigated. As of this morning, we have received more than 130 tips. We thank the community for that. The FBI has brought every resource to bear, and we will continue to do so throughout the course of this investigation.
All right. So, Randy, your thoughts on that video?
Well, I kind of like the rest of you on the panel, and certainly what Khalid just said. You know, this still seems very convenient, right? But we all know they have the bullet. They should be able, you know, now I don't know if it bounced, because now people are saying it may have bounced off the vest because the shirt moved first, then his neck opened up. And if you watch it in slow motion, that is what you see. However, we have the bullet, so they should be able to do ballistics and tell you if that was the rifle or not, instead of saying, we believe it's the rifle. Why aren't they saying we did a test, it's definitively it? And you would know if that thing was fired today for sure. If they just fired it, they would know. They would be able to, you know, depending on when they found it, heck, the barrel should have still been warm. But if it was, you know, hours later, maybe not. But the fact is, it all seems a bit too convenient. And I was trying to think. I think there was one, right? But most of these shooters that were mass shooters, none of them survived.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And how somehow this guy is able to get away completely, you know. Yeah. So I don't, you know, really, again, is what we're saying. We're going to have to wait the next 24 hours, and it might even be longer than that for all this to fully shake out. And I'm just suspecting, because of the way things have gone with all the other shootings and everything we've seen over the last 20, 30 years, really all the way back to JFK, they're probably never going to find this guy. He was meant to be able to get away. There's a reason for that. So you have to ask yourself, why didn't they have him killed right then? Now, they could bury him now and we would never know. And that's certainly a possibility. And if they were smart, that's what they will do. But,
so,
you know,
I don't mean to be contrarian, and I'm going to get S2 to weigh in on this as well, but he did not have level 4 plates on, and which means that if he had any protection on it,
it doesn't look like it.
It does not look like it in the t-shirt, but if he did, it would be, you know, level 3A, which is rated for handguns. I don't know anybody who shot more plates than me. We do a ton of testing on different plates, and I have never, ever, ever seen a round ricochet off of a plate. It doesn't happen. So
I never have either.
So the whole theory that they hit a body armor panel and it ricocheted off them, bullshit. I'm telling you that straight up. With the number of plates that we've shot over the years, bullshit. Doesn't happen. So
what I'm thinking is it may have, it certainly could have deflected off his spinal cord.
Could have
went down, and that may be what the shirt popped like that for, because it went somewhere.
So
it didn't go out the back, or we would have saw blood hit the tent behind it.
Yeah. Well, again, it depends on the projectile in the front, right? If it's a fragmented projectile that's designed not to go through, then that could be the case. So hold on a second. Go ahead, Jeff, before I go to
a couple of things. First, don't take anything you hear out of the media as gospel. Ever since I'm old enough to remember life before CNN, before we went to the 24-hour news cycle, this didn't happen. But they're in such a competition with each other to get their, firstest, the mostest. They put any bullshit up on the screen, and then they could easily go back and say, well, we were wrong. So grain of salt with everything. Hence the guy with the shorts who turns out to be in Vegas. Okay, grain of salt. Okay, Archangel in the comments made a very good point. He says if the spent round was still in the chamber, how did they get it out? They had to rack the bolt. So apparently the bolt moves unless they took the scope off to do it. Okay, I've got a 30-06 bolt action. It's tight. My bolt works, but it is tight, but it does work. Okay, so there's that. The other thing is, have they done ballistics yet? Okay, that means they have to recover the bullet from Charlie, which I'm sure they've already done. Then they have to fire the gun itself into a tank to get a clean bullet so they compare the two. They are not going to do that until they have completely dusted that entire rifle and every part of that rifle for fingerprints, which means they're going to have to take the scope off. They're going to have to dust every component. They're going to check everything on it. They're going to take out the bullets. They're going to the unshot bullets. They're going to dust those for fingerprints. All that's got to be done before they test fire the weapon. Otherwise, you taint the weapon. So that could be a day or two. So everybody just needs to be patient. Let them do their thing, because crime investigation hasn't changed that much. The news cycle has. Cops have not adjusted their investigative techniques to speed up for the news cycle. It takes what it takes.
So to your point, before I moved to S2 about not trusting everything from this 24/7 news cycle, there was one guy who didn't know his ass from a hole in the ground when it comes to firearms, who posited that it ricocheted off a body panel. And that just does not happen. No. It's a prime example of, so somebody wanted to argue with us on X today saying, well, I saw the guy on TV and it ricocheted off the body panel. Yet, no, it didn't. There was no body panel and it didn't ricochet, and it doesn't work that way, period. So
it all doesn't ricochet off of Kevlar.
Right. So we're
through Kevlar.
We're pretty much at the end. I got one video to play, but I want to come to S2 just to get your thoughts on the comments of it ricocheting off a body panel, blah, 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 blah.
I have a lot of close-up photographs of the shot as it happened and just immediately after it happened. If it ricocheted, you would have seen a mark on his white T-shirt.
Yeah.
Shocking.
So that's bullshit. Yeah. The other thing that I'll add to this is not, as Randy had alluded to, this is not the MO of a trans shooter, okay? The MO of a trans shooter is they go through this planning phase where they think about it, they fantasize about it. This is the psychology of how they operate. They go through this thing where they fantasize about it, they start reading about it, and then they actually go into their planning stages, where they're going to do advanced recon, and then they'll go into their operational phase of where they'll go out and they'll actually start training for it and those sorts of things. They'll have a manifesto. Every single one of these trans shooters has had a manifesto. Okay. They write about it. They do not expect to survive the encounter. They plan to die. Yep. This is not the MO of a trans shooter. And secondly, if they said that there was trans ideology crap written on the rounds, how the fuck did they get them out if they can't get the bolt out of the gun?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Pardon my French.
Yeah. No. Good point. And so I've just got this last video. I'll give everybody a couple minutes to quickly chime in on it. We'll start with Roman, but let me get this last one up and playing, and then we'll be into the main topic of the night. If memory serves me right, by the way, there's some NSFW language in this.
You know, I told myself I wasn't going to make this video, but I'm going to make it. You know, when Joe Biden was falling upstairs and falling downstairs and falling off of his bike and crapping his pants in public in front of the Pope, no less, sure, we poked a little bit of fun at him because it was embarrassing for us as a country. And then when he was diagnosed with cancer, I don't remember seeing a single conservative Republican wishing him to be unalived. But yet, you fucking liberals try to assassinate our president when he was running for office again. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And then you go after and assassinate this young man with a wife and 2 children simply because of his values and his religious beliefs. And also the fact that he was a shit-hot debater and you really stood no chance if you were on the opposing side with him. He was well-read. He was well-educated. He was self-educated. Like he openly stated, he never went to college. He was just a high school graduate. And he made something for himself. And in the last 20 minutes, I have seen nothing but hate and spew vomit come out of liberals' mouths all over social media. Elated and happy that Charlie was assassinated simply because of his beliefs. Y'all just definitely opened up a can of worms you're going to wish to Christ that you freaking never even touched. Sick of this shit.
So, Roman, before you guys, I want to address something in the audience here because talk about misinformation, disinformation. This is the shooter on the roof, okay? And you can see as I go through the video, you can see his profile. That alone right there indicates this was not a professional hit. No sniper worth their salt would ever put themselves in a position on a roof like that where they could be seen. They would be obfuscated, number one. Number two, when you have a spotter as a sniper, they're beside you. They're not beside the stage. And those guys that everybody thought were giving hand signals to the snipers were Charlie's friends and security detail. This is not a professional, not even close. And let me tell you something else that S2 can verify for you. The Marine qualification right now with iron sights is 50 yards, 250 yards, 500 yards. This at 200 yards is a chip shot. It's an absolute chip shot. You don't need any special skills. You don't need a special optic, none of that stuff. This is the farthest thing possible from a professional hit. Anyway, I'll get off that soapbox and come to you, Roman, and then we'll give everybody a chance to say their thoughts, and we'll move on to the main topic. What are your thoughts of his comments?
Sure. So his comments are the exact reason why I stay off of social media, because it's all exacerbation. Both sides are feeding off of it. Everyone's looking to escalate and one up. A lot of it is done anonymously, right? People are hiding behind social handles. They're not putting their faces out there with these comments. So I stay off of it. And also, like, I think it's a big assumption that it's a liberal. Who knows who it is, right? It could be just someone, a group, an organization that hates America for whatever reason. They hate liberals. They hate Conservatives, they just hate us, right? And what better way to get us to fight each other than to create instability within our nation, right? And the best way to create instability is polarize us against ourselves to lead us into a civil conflict. And just one comment on the body armor issue. You know, MIRA Safety also sells body armor. The only way that could have bounced off of body armor is if it was steel body armor. And I don't think Charlie Kirk's security team would be stupid enough to put steel plates on his chest, right? That's like, long since obsolete technology. It would have been ceramic more than likely, and ceramic absorbs the energy and does not shoot out the other side.
I would add to that we've punched holes in steel panels before, but we've also taken steel panels and put them inside of a box and then shot them through the box so that we could capture what's left over. There's no projectile left over. It spalls. It comes apart into a bunch of pieces. So it's not going to spall and sever the carotid artery and hit your spine. And if you notice the way that his body went, that his spine was severed by that shot. And so
that's why his head did that.
Correct. But again, even if it was steel and it was able to withstand whatever the round is, it wouldn't be a solid projectile after that. It just, like I say, it falls apart into little tiny small pieces. But anyway, Khalid, I'm going to skip you because I want to get into the second chapter, and we'll start off with you. You can speak to it there, but I'm going to give everybody else a final chance before we move on to chapter 2, which is Roman.
Well, I would say that I'm in complete agreement. I never thought he had a vest on. And furthermore, I know 5 or 6 cases of guys that were shot in the vest by AKs over in theater, right? And then there's numerous others. It happened many times over the last 20 years, and not one person was killed because the bullet deflected off the protective armor and then struck them in the neck or the head or anywhere else, unless it went all the way through. And that doesn't happen with just one shot. So, I think that, we're just going to, as I mentioned earlier, we're just going to have to wade through it because we're not getting the truth. But, I will say that the thing that's I keep going back to is they had people in the crowd to draw the attention of the security and the police so the guy could get away. We haven't seen a lot of these shooters with a plan that were to escape, whether as Roman mentioned, and I think S2, that the transgenders don't operate that way. Of all the last 6 or 7, whatever it was, none of them did that. And when we look at all of them, including Butler, none of them escaped. So there's got to be that question answered of how and why was this guy allowed to escape? So, and then maybe if we actually find him and the real weapon, because as we all mentioned, it most likely is not the weapon that they found in the woods, which again lends to some type of cover-up story.
I appreciate that, Randy. Thank you. S2, your parting thoughts, and then Jeff, you've got last word before we move into chapter 2.
Well, Jeff and I are going back and forth in the comments section in our private chat here about things. But yeah, but here's the thing: we can agree to disagree. Okay, I've done my studying on things. Jeff knows his things from his past. This is the point that I'm making: is that the murder of Charlie Kirk was all because people didn't agree to disagree with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to get back to the place where civil discourse can be had, where we can actually debate things. The problem Charlie ran into was he was so effective that the left figured out that they couldn't debate him anymore to shut him up, so they had to kill him. And I actually don't think it was the left that did it, but I'm going to reserve my judgment for that. The internet's already figured that out.
Fair enough. All right. Thanks, S2. Jeff, final word to you.
Yeah, at this point, we don't know what we don't know. I think I just urge everybody to be patient, wait for things to settle out. Was it a trans shooter? We don't know. Was it someone trying to make it look like a trans shooter? Maybe. It could have been Antifa, the John Brown Gun Club. Any of those idiots could have made that shot. So again, people just need to be patient. I know it's frustrating. Everybody liked Charlie, and this was a huge tragedy, and we want answers right now. Well, we're not going to get them right now, so just be patient. Let the FBI and the ATF or whoever let them do their thing. And as far as letting the shooter get away, you got to realize, who are we talking about on the police force? This isn't the Secret Service. There were no counter sniper teams. This is a campus police department. These are nothing against those guys, but no one is going to mistake any of them for Elliot Ness. Okay, so if you're going to shoot somebody, that's probably a good place to do it, because you're not up against the best of the best of the best.
Right on. All right. Well, Jeff, S2, Randy, appreciate your time. Everybody else in the audience, hang with us. Roman and Khalid and I, we're going to jump into the next chapter of our Long War series. It's focused on community versus collapse. Basically, the scenario is we've been covering ad nauseum. The intel shows that Al-Qaeda and ISIS, their intentions are to hit 10 to 15 tier 2 cities, so 100,000 to 500,000 people. And it'll be like Mumbai 2008, November 2015 in Paris, where they go and attack soft targets, then they stop, wait for the first responders to show up, and then hit the first responders in the secondary attacks, and then move on with tertiary attacks and consolidate at the tier 1 trauma center. So there's a whole bunch of tier 2 cities that only have one tier 1 trauma center. So Khalid, I'm going to give you just a chance to quickly speak your mind. And then Roman, I'd like you to step us through a few things on mirasafety.com, especially your newsletter and blog, which are really, really awesome. And then we'll kick it off. So go ahead, Khalid.
Well, I posted this in our Signal chat as well. I said, listen, we spent 20 episodes educating you for this moment we're in right now. Whether you understand that or not, what is happening right now is exactly what we're educating you for. Is when everything hits the fan and you have to make decisions that matter not only for your country, but for your community and for your own safety. This is where we are right now. And yeah, they're trying to instigate you. They're trying to get your blood pressure up. They're trying to get you to carry out an act of violence. I mean, if we look at today, 5 historically Black universities were in a lockdown with shooter calls. And what you're doing is you're dividing so that we can never come together. If everything goes nuts, no one will trust anybody else. So how do we form a community? How do we trust anybody when we've been divided in a very orchestrated, specific manner? So I'll leave it there, and then we'll pick up as we go on.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Khalid. So Roman, you guys have a super busy newsletter that goes way beyond PPE equipment. You guys do a fantastic job. Whoever does it, hats off to them. I come from the world of high tech, so I know quality work like that when I see it. You guys also have a super active blog, but give us a Cliff Notes version. You can go a little bit more in depth than you did earlier as far as the range of products, because it's impressive, and this stuff's all designed by your team, correct?
So we actually act as the retail arm for a few defense contractors that are on the smaller side, and we release their products to the world, civilian side, but also the military side as well. So, for instance, our check masks, they're manufactured in a factory called Gumarny Zubri. They've been around since the 1930s in the Czech Republic. For the longest time, they only supplied their local government and a few agencies around Europe. We partnered with them to modify their products and then release them to the entire world. Unfortunately, within this space specifically, there has been a lot of gatekeeping historically where these types of products were not available to the general public. And we're looking to change that, right? Especially for children's products. That's one thing we're very passionate about. You know, I'm a father, I've got 2 kids. And I remember one of the calls for Ready to Go Survival that we had, I was speaking to a mother and, you know, telling her about gas mask options. And she was like, well, do you have anything for kids? And I was like, well, you know, we don't for now. And she was like, well, what do I do if the shit hits the fan? Am I just going to put a mask on my own face and not take care of my child? And that was like a real gut punch, right? That really hit me hard. And I was thinking, you know, and this is before I had kids. I was like, you're right. I cannot imagine you putting a mask on your face and not putting anything on your child. So this probably isn't the right product for you at this time, right? But then we set out to change that. We found a few manufacturing partners in Europe, which only provided them to their local government agencies. So for instance, the MD1 up there, that is manufactured in Serbia, and they just manufacture them for the stockpile of the Serbian government, right, in case an event happened. But it was arcane threading. The rubber wasn't made to resist blistering agents and CBRN agents. They had a different head harness that pulled on kids' hair. So we modified that. We changed the head harness. We changed it to butyl rubber, which is resistant to blistering agents. We added 40 millimeter NATO threaded ports. And now we're, you know, distributing it to the rest of the world. So yeah, that's our passion is really providing personal protective equipment to the general public. We're a civilian first company, and also to those who have, you know, no other options for them, such as animals, as you see here, children, and the like.
So Roman sent us one of these, and we're a huge dog family here. We rescue dogs and have for many, many years. And the masks that are made for dogs, they're not going to stand up to any serious use. You need something like this. So Roman's people sent us one of these that we've been testing it. We got one dog who loves being in there, and the other dog not so much. But if we put food in there, that'll probably solve that problem. But
yeah. These are all escape and evasion products, right? This isn't like something's happening and I'm just going to hang out or hunker down. Really, anytime the air becomes toxic, more than likely it's an evacuation scenario. You're not hanging out in your house, right? Unless, you know, there's fallout, there's other circumstances going on, etc. Like recently there was a chemical plant burning in Indiana, and one of our employees was just a few miles away from it. And he said he stepped outside and it just hit him like a wall. Like he's like, I could taste the air.
Wow.
The air has a taste, right? And who knows what's getting burned up and what kind of chemical reaction is happening and what's getting released, right? And usually we're not going to find out until years later that this is actually affecting people's health, right? Most of the companies are covering it up. Hey, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. And you know what? You will be fine, right? For a year, 2 years, 3 years. But some of these chemicals have a cumulative effect, right? And they won't hit you. You won't realize the negative health impact until months or years or even decade down the line.
Yeah, true story. There's a reason they're called forever chemicals, right?
Yep.
So Khalid, I'm going to have you kick off the stuff on the main topic. But before that, I want to mention something here. So when I said earlier that we're not in the business of hurting other people's businesses, what I was trying to communicate is when somebody asks us about a specific product and I say, well, it's not on any of our channels, any of our blogs, that's my way of saying that it didn't pass the test. If it makes it onto our channels, then it passed the test. $199 for this CM8 mask, by the way, and I don't get affiliate money from Roman or anything like that. He doesn't pay me. Notice the indentation below the viewport right here. That's a really, really big deal. The CM8 and the C21, which was on the page before that I showed sitting beside me, are the only 2 masks that I've ever worn, and I have worn a ton of them, that have allowed me to get a regular cheek weld on a rifle. What that means is that when you put the other face masks on, you have to do all sorts of crazy contortions, and you're not shooting like you do when you've normally tested, number one. Number two, we had a challenge when Denny Chapman was still here in Florida. He's a multi-time national and world shooting champion, where we were doing 5-minute circuits with a mask on in 100-degree Florida humidity and weather. And the goal was to get through 5 circuits without taking the mask off. So you run the circuit. So you're running, you're gunning, you're lifting weights, you're doing band exercises. Heart rate is like 140 beats per minute. I got to the end of the 4th one, and I'm not a quitter, and I had to take the dang thing off because I thought I was going to die, and Denny did the same thing. We recreated it a week later with this particular mask, which is not Roman's top of the line. $199 is a killer price for this. And we were both able to complete the circuit with no claustrophobia, and neither one of us missed a single shot because of the cheek weld. So enough of the shameless plugs. I didn't intend on going there, but it's a thing. So Khalid, coming to you now on this, we've set the stage with multiple episodes up until now. So we want to talk what happens immediately afterwards, right? So these cities have been sieged. It's a 60, 72 plus hour event before we've been able to repel the terrorists, claim our hospitals back. There's massive amounts of casualties. There's planes that have been exploded in the air. The Bojinka strategy, if you want to look it up, it originated with Osama bin Laden in the mid 1990s. Now we got a problem where there's no food, there's no gas, the water may not be flowing, and you're not going to survive on your own, even if you have a whole bunch of stuff stacked up. So it's going to put people in a state of panic. They beat the heck out of each other for a TV on Black Friday. What do you think they're going to do for food and water when it gets to that point? So what we're going to discuss tonight is mutual aid networks, OPSEC, so operational security, securing your vital resources, something to keep your neighborhood intact, because there's all sorts of things that will happen. And this is not conjecture. These are things that have happened in other cities that have fallen, like Baghdad, for example. So Khalid, going to segment number 1, setting the stage, go ahead and hit all the key points on that. And then I'm going to let you pose the questions to Roman for this first section, so people don't have to listen to me speak any longer.
Okay. Now, we spent 20 episodes talking about how we get to this point. In the 20 episodes, we've talked about how you vet a team of neighbors to work together, to share resources, provide security, take care of each other if something gets into your neighborhood. We've talked about storing water for yourselves. We've talked about prepping for food. We've laid an entire playbook out for you. We've even gone into operational security that when you're prepping, don't go out and buy everything in one shot. Go buy a little, wait a few days, go buy a little bit more, go buy a little bit more, go buy a little bit more. Build up that resource so you don't draw anybody's attention towards you. When you start to vet your people, do it in a way where you're having a conversation and you're not going, so do you know how to build a fire if there's no gas? Do you know how to do this? Do you know how to... You don't want to expose yourself. And operational security is the hardest thing to deal with, because for someone who's an operator, they understand how to move in that environment. For a civilian to understand how operational security works, that takes a bit of learning. And it takes a bit of learning. The way I was taught, and I'll give you the very simple one that I was taught. I was sitting with a friend of mine who's a lawyer, and he said, tell me something. Do you know how the weather is? I mean, yeah, it's sunshiny. He said, the next time I ask you a question, you answer what I ask you. Don't elaborate. And that's what I learned operational security from. Is that what you're asked is what you answer. Don't go into detail. When you go into detail, you start overshare mode. And then your security is put at risk. That's a problem that we have. That when we start talking to somebody, we start sharing information beyond what we need to share. And when we started sharing that information, we give up our security. People find out how much stuff we have, how many guns we have, how much food we have, how much water we have, what our exfil plan is. All those things come out. And when you understand that the more controlled you are with yourself, the more you'll be able to learn about somebody else. That's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen, don't talk. because that's where you learn, and that's what interrogators do. They ask you leading questions. They lead you down that path so you can hang yourself. You tell me what I want to know rather than me telling you what I want to know. So let's go this way. Roman, help us understand that when everything goes down, where would your first step be? I mean, you've built your community, everything's gone. Where are you looking to go first as a family leader?
Sure. So it depends on the threat, right? If it's a local threat, a state threat, or a national widespread threat. If it's a national widespread threat, I probably want to get out of here, want to get out of the country, which is the reason I'm a pilot, right? I'm getting my pilot's license. I have an airplane, right? And I'm learning to operate it. But it also depends on the threat, whether you're going to be able to use a plane or not, right? Let's say it's a terrorist event that's widespread and it's happening all across the country. More than likely, flights will be grounded. And if you are caught up in the air, you're going to get shot down, right? So that's actually something I'm kind of working through right now with some of my other pilot buddies, is figuring out an escape plan in case all air traffic is grounded. But meanwhile, it's all about planning, right? And I'm planning outside of a major city, right? Austin is about 45 minutes away. We're on the outskirts of Austin. My commute to work is about 10 minutes. It's close. I don't have to go through the crazy traffic, right? That's one place that a person can get stuck in for an extended period of time, and that can create a security threat, right? If you're stuck in traffic and there's an active mass shooter event going on with multiple assailants, right? Where's the best place to just pick people off one by one? You run through traffic car by car, boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
Right. So getting stuck is just not an option for me. I mean, it all starts off at the places I most frequent. So the place I'm most frequent right now is my job, right? So at my job, we have a sustainable food source. We have chickens on our property. We've got about 150 chickens at this point. That's actually one of the perks of working at MIRA Safety, is you get chicken rations all the time. But if something were to happen, no, this is serious. This is real talk. We got 150 chickens out there. And if something happens, right, our local community, which is our workforce, can band together and protect this property, while also not having to go anywhere for rations and depending on the government to sustain life. At home, I have a water contingency plan. We have well, right, on top of being on the grid. I have a cutoff at the point of the city water coming into my house. All I have to do is turn that on, feed the well water into my house. It's all pre-filtered, and we're good to go. For electricity, I have full off-grid solar in my house. But the number one thing is, when you have all these things and you're also in this space, right, it's very hard for me to hide the fact that I'm the CEO of MIRA Safety, a preparedness-minded company. I wish I could be more incognito like some of the other preparedness-minded individuals out there, but I can't. So at this point, it's all about trying to help the community, trying to build the community, and security, right? And for security, I have a group of brothers, right, people who I trust, that we have a mutual assistance agreement that in case something goes down, we're going to help each other, right? I'm going to be there for you. You're going to be there for me. You have these things. You're good at this. I'm good at these other things. We have a complementary skill set. Together, we can use that.
That's sorry. Go ahead, Ron.
But one of the main accelerants of all these things, really, and this is something that every preparedness-minded individual should think of, is money. Right? Money accelerates preparedness significantly. So figuring out a way to make an income that goes beyond your standard job. Find a side hustle, right? I'm sure everybody listening to this podcast has some sort of skill which they can market, right? Which they learn from their standard job. Offer consulting services for, $50, $100, $150 an hour, whatever it takes. Find ways to invest your money, right? Because Money makes all of these things possible, right? Without money, it's going to be difficult for you to dig a well and to buy food, right? All of these things are money dependent.
Yeah, well said, Roman. So I want to just put a fine point on a couple things, Khalid, before we go into segment number 2. So basically, after the dust has settled on all these terrorist attacks, people aren't going to work, children aren't going to hospitals, supply chains are completely broken and down. There's a good possibility you have no electricity, the grid's down, either in your area or across the entire country. You've got voice and data networks that have been taken down after word has spread as far as how terrible these attacks were, and the terrorists broadcast videos of them doing horrific things. Your first responders have been decimated because of the secondary attacks that we've discussed. In other words, these secondary attacks, which have happened in other attacks like Mumbai and Paris, is they've been studying everything that's happening right now. All these school reports of bombs, potential shooters, bomb threats in Times Square. These are all probing exercises on the part of Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and their partners that are under the umbrella of the Islamic Army now. They're recording where did the cops come from, where did people flee, where did they exfil, and what were the protocols that were used, and they study that. So they go in and they attack something small and draw a response. And then they launch their secondary attack with typically IEDs or VBIEDs, which are vehicle ones. And they kill the first responders. And then they come on scene dressed up as first responders themselves. As we've mentioned multiple times, there's been a rash of break-ins at dry cleaners and National Guard armories in the past 12 months. And what's happened in those break-ins? They've stolen National Guard uniforms, including the boots. They've stolen police uniforms, EMT paramedic uniforms. Same thing that happened in 10/7 Israel. Same thing that's happened in multiple terrorist attacks. The people who were paying attention, 10/7, as soon as they saw the guys in the paragliders with guns, they ran to their cars. They tried to exfil. 2 Hamas guys dressed up as cops said, well, it's not safe to go past here. And then they got slaughtered in their cars. So you can expect all of these types of things to happen. When the communication stuff goes down, there's going to be all sorts of rumors and misinformation. And here's how it went down in Baghdad and other cities that have fallen. Everybody starts looting everything right out of the gate. But depending on the population, whether it's a dense urban center or not, the next thing happens is the looters and the marauders come out and take everything away from the looters at gunpoint. And it's called WROL, World Without Rule of Law. There will be a reckoning, of course, at some point in time. But at that, human survival kicks in and people's true self comes to the fore, and they start doing horrible things like killing other people for their stuff. So that's what this first phase of this stuff looks like. So Khalid, take us into segment 2, building mutual aid and neighborhood plans.
That's where I was going, because Roman's got experience. He talked about having an agreement with some brothers on if something goes wrong, how you'll all support each other. Can you help us? Chris and I have gone over this over and over on the show on how you vet people, how you pick people. How do you understand what skill base you bring in from who, where your trade-offs are? Can you help us understand how do you go through that vetting process? How do you pick the people that you need to have around you? What do you need to have around you when everything goes down? That's the bigger question.
Yeah. Well, considering I'm in the tactical industry and I've built a reputation for myself in this industry, I have access to certain people who are interested in just getting to know me that other people don't, right? So it's really just about the reputation I've built, which attracts a certain kind of people to me. And many of those people are well-trained in tactics, in shooting arts, in, other things. And many of these people also have means to buy food, to have an extra piece of land on the outskirts of our city. People on the, in other states that are brothers of mine that are saying, hey, if anything happens, you can come to my place. So you always want to have like a primary, secondary, and tertiary plan, right? Primary plan is like, hey, your city is not safe. Find a place to regroup with your loved ones outside of the city, right? If your state becomes unsafe, right, find a meeting place that you can meet up with your family, your brothers, whoever it is that's in your group, and have a plan to get out. Also have different routes to get out, right? You have to realize that major highways will be targets for looters, especially if it's a widespread event, right? We just saw this recently in Ukraine. A lot of the people who are evacuating, who became refugees overnight, right? They took major transportation corridors, highways, to get out. People were waiting for them, and they know, the golden horde rule, that when people evacuate, they're going to take all their expensive, nice things with them. So that's a big opportunity for those who wish to do harm. So you should really not follow major transportation corridors. You should go off the beaten path and also have a backup route for escape. And if you can afford it, learn to fly, right? Get into a Cessna. You can buy an airplane nowadays for $40,000 to $60,000. It won't be glamorous, but it'll get you out, right? Yeah. And
Roman, can you bring it down to the base civilian who has limited means, has a community around them that how life is now. Sure. Most people don't even know who their neighbor is anymore.
Yep.
How do you build that mutual support group with that kind of an environment?
Sure. So the way I like to meet my neighbors is I host poker games. We'll go in my garage and I'll be like, hey guys, I'll just meet the local people. If I see somebody walking their dog, I'll stop them. I'll be like, hey, how's it going? I'm Roman. I'm your neighbor. Oh, let's start talking, right? Small talk. Hey, I do a poker game, real friendly, $50 buy-in, whatever, just to hang out, right? And that's a way for you to get your neighbors, to come over and to hang out, right? So that's the way I do it. I just approach them in a very friendly way. Many of them do question my license plate says gas mask on it. So they're like, oh, what's the gas mask? I have to explain that right away. But you got to talk to people, right? You can't just put yourself into a bubble. If I see somebody on my street who's parked there, I'll come up to the car and I'll talk to them like, hey, what's up, man? What's going on? What are you up to? Oh, I just, if they're like, oh, they don't know what to say. I'm like, well, you're hanging out here. I live here. So I want to know what you're doing here.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Right. Don't be shy. Put yourself out there. Ask questions. Find out who's doing what in your neighborhood.
Yeah, it's great advice for sure. So Khalid, I want to take us into OPSEC. Just gives our audience a high level overview. I'll have you speak to it and then you can carry on asking questions of Roman here. So OPSEC, operational security, secure communication. So this matters because if you're broadcasting anything like what you have for supplies, what your plans are, all you're doing is inviting, theft or attack. So a lot of people will go to Walmart, buy the cheap little FRS radios. They only have 22 channels that are in the GMRS FRS band. And so everybody's going to hear everything that people are saying on those within a relatively short distance in an urban environment, probably no more than a mile in our testing at least. Avoid bragging on social media, or posting pictures of you stockpiling stuff. Use encrypted apps and no location sharing. So just something quick because I come from the world of high tech. So there's a reason we use Signal, and there's a reason that many government organizations use Signal. Signal is open source code. What that means is that people like myself can go look at the source code and determine precisely what's in that application. So there's no back doors, there's no reporting. It's not doing an ET and calling home. Whereas most of the other communication apps out there, like WhatsApp, Facebook turned around or Meta turned around and gave access to the entire European Union to access everybody's messages. So it's why they held Pavel Durov in France over Telegram. So here's the thing. When you use closed source software, it's like buying a car with the hood welded shut. You can't look underneath it. When you use open source software like Signal, There are literally tens of thousands of developers who lay their eyes on the source code. They lift the hood up and see underneath the hood of Signal. When you see people saying, oh, but Signal had this vulnerability and that vulnerability, no, they didn't. Every single one of those is somebody in the legacy media either doesn't know what they're talking about or they're trying to foment distrust. They're all phishing attempts. So in other words, if somebody sends you an email and says, hey, you need to reset your password, click here to reset the password, and you click on it and you put your password in because it says, what's your existing password, and then set your new one, you've been compromised. It's a phishing attack. Now they take your credentials that you just inadvertently shared, and now they can access your applications like Signal for communication purposes and stuff. But there are no holes in Signal, and a lot of non-technical people like to argue about that. It's just not the case. And ask anybody who's got coding experience, and they'll verify what I just said. So here's the other thing with comms, a lot of other stuff as well, but 3 is 2, 2 is 1, 1 is none. So having redundancy. So Dr. Michael Fabian, he's been on the channel a number of times, close personal friend of mine. We have a mutual group put together, and we have done extensive testing on communication stuff. We've everything from GMRS to ham radios to business class radios. We're fixing to do some stuff now with the POC links, which are over the LTE network. The next series of videos that we're doing after that are going to be on shortwave high frequency that bounces off the ionosphere. We have Garmin InReach minis. Like, we want to cover all of those bases, because when you see a radio that says, yeah, this Baofeng here's got a 35-mile range, bullshit. It's got a 35-mile range when you're in the flats, the salt flats, and there's a repeater between you, or 2 or 3 repeaters between you and the next guy. And here in the Southeast, in Florida in particular, we don't have a big network of repeaters. You're not talking to somebody 35 miles an hour or 35 miles away, pardon me, with a handheld ham radio, or even a base station or a mobile that doesn't have an antenna on it that's like 40 feet high, like the one right outside my window here. So beyond that, you got to stay on top of your comms. Use them on a regular basis, at least once a quarter is my recommendation. Make sure the batteries are charged up. Ham radios in particular seem to hold battery charge a long, long time. And make sure all of your equipment works. It doesn't do you any good to check if your equipment works after the shit hits the fan. So, Khalid, I'm going to turn it over to you here for you and Roman to go through the questions that we put in the brief here for segment 3.
Okay. I come from a bit of a tactical background as well, so I know where I know quite a bit about the OPSEC side. But can you help the amateur understand how they go about operational security? Because most people don't get it. We've done a number of shows where we talked about how you figure out communications, how you figure out backup power, how you keep things quiet yourself and don't advertise it to the world. Can you help the average citizen understand how OPSEC works?
Sure. Well, I'm not really an OPSEC expert, but my philosophy is always say less, right? Yeah. Anytime I'm talking to somebody, I always have it ingrained in my brain, say less. Hey, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm in e-commerce.
Yep.
Right? Instead of, oh yeah, I'm a defense contractor and I sell gas masks and this and this and that, right? That's not necessary. I'm in e-commerce. Yeah, I just sell stuff online. What do you do? Right? Talk, ask others to talk more. Listen, right? Use your ears. Ask them questions. People love talking about themselves anyway. So let them talk. Ask them questions about themselves. Learn as much as you can about them. Right? And you'd be surprised at what you could learn.
Yeah,
right? Maybe you'll learn enough information to realize that you shouldn't give them any information about yourself. Right? Maybe they have a weird background or they're saying some strange things. Maybe on a value level, you don't agree with them, right? Like I love talking to people, about preparedness, and they start telling me about their plans, and they're like, yeah, if I have enough guns, I don't need to buy prepper stuff. I'll just go and take it. And that's a red flag for me. Anytime I hear somebody saying that, I'm like, cool, man. All right, I'll see you later.
Yeah.
We're done here. There's nothing else for me to discuss with you, right? Because I see the kind of person you are, and I know that I should not open up to you, because if I open up to you, now it's operational risk, right? You might come and seek me out if the shit hits the fan, and I don't want that, right? I want as few people as possible, after my resources, right? If anything goes down. So say less. As far as comms go, my personal setup is I have a Starlink Mini that's been working really well. I have it plugged into the airplane as well, so I can use it while I'm going places. And you can plug that into a Cessna as well. It doesn't have to be a crazy plane. It could just be a Cessna with the right plug. For a couple $100, you install the special plug. You can power your Starlink wherever you go. I have a portable solar setup for on-the-move operations from Yeti. I believe it was a Yeti 1250 or something like that. It's got the solar panels, more than enough electricity to power up a Starlink and basic electronics for on-the-move stuff. And then I also have Iridium satellite phones. So one satellite phone, unfortunately, is not enough, and they are kind of pricey. I think they're like $1,000, but a lot of people, they'll go out and buy a new iPhone every single year, hold on to that iPhone for 3 or 4 years, right? And then just buy a satellite phone every year instead, right? That satellite phone's going to cost you $1,000. Service on it, I think the cheapest service is $50 a month, right? You have one, somebody else in your group has one. One satellite phone's not enough, right? At the minimum, it should be if you have a spouse, right? You and your wife have a satellite phone. So that way you can get in contact with each other if you don't work together, right? And if you're on opposite sides of town, so you can get in contact. So that's kind of my strategy.
Help me understand. I mean, we have this problem with CommandEleven as well when we're operating. How do you balance secrecy and transparency when you're dealing with somebody? Because when you're out in the field, you have to keep your operational security, but you also have to give up some amount of information to build some kind of trust or loyalty with the person you're dealing with. Where do you draw that line at?
Yeah, I'm not the best person to ask this question, just because, once again, I'm in the preparedness business, right? On our YouTube channel, we have a series called Pimp My MRAP. We're building out an MRAP right now with a 50 caliber machine gun up top, and this is public information, right? So for me, like, OPSEC is kind of dead. Right? At this point, I'm just trying to surround myself with people who are, who are either friends of friends who I trust, or people that I personally trust that I know from the community.
Right.
It's very difficult for me. I wish I could speak from a place where I didn't already expose myself in such a way, but considering the nature of my business, it's been very difficult to do both. Right. Create entertainment around the space, talk about this stuff, but also like put on this mask. Like I don't have any preps and I'm not into it.
I'll give you a difficult question.
Sure.
When you got kids, you can't really hide anything from your kids. And they're going to go and tell whatever. So how do you figure out what stays between you and your spouse and what you tell your children?
Well, I have talks with my children, right? And I tell them about keeping your mouth shut, say less,
right?
Because kids have, the tendency to blab about a lot of things.
Yep.
So I just have open conversations with them. And so far it's been helpful, right? I'll have serious conversations with my daughter and tell her, hey, there's certain things about our family, about things that we do that you shouldn't talk about because it could create a dangerous situation, right? And I talk to my children like they're adults.
Okay.
But, there's certain things I won't disclose to them. Like I'm not going to tell them where I keep my firearms and stuff like that. They don't need to know that right now, right? They're still too young. I mean, my daughter's 6. I haven't taken her to the shooting range just yet. I do plan on it soon, but there's just certain things I'm not going to share with her for now.
Okay.
Yeah. But what's your methodology?
Well, the way we do it, I mean, we only share as much as we need to share. There's a line we don't cross. When it comes to operations, we will share enough, and a lot of it is dirty information. It's not even real information that we share when we're trying to understand someone's loyalty, trying to understand where they come from. We put a lot of dirty information out just to see what kind of response we get. because a lot of people, when you don't share a lot, they'll shut up. They'll go to a certain point and they'll be like, wait a minute, I'm doing all the talking and he's not saying anything. There's something wrong here. And then they start to get questioning. So what we've done, we've trained all of our people that have a legend, and use that legend when you're vetting somebody. Start putting out information, start talking about things, well, I've got this and I do this and I do this. I mean, our standard cover, we're consultants. That's the standard cover we use at CommandEleven. We're all consultants. Nothing goes beyond that point. Oh, what do you consult on? Oh, well, basically business, marketing, management. We don't even talk about what we do. For me, it's difficult because I'm on broadcast and I'm on TV a lot. So I kind of lose that option. But as far as the guys that work for us, we've taught them the word consultant is the only thing that comes out of your mouth as far as your job goes. And when people ask what you do, have a cover story. Whatever you feel comfortable with. I do web business. I do side hustles. I write reports, whatever you want to make up your story to be, but make up a story that you will not forget, because you'll have to repeat that same story to that same person again. So that's something that we've learned, is that we've ingrained that into people, because when we first started out, the problem we had was people would tell us a lot and then they'd stop and go, wait a minute, I'm telling you so much, but you're not telling me anything. And we get stuck. So we turned around and said, okay, let's run a legend.
So Khalid and I are good friends, so nobody get upset with the nature of my next question here. But Khalid, how many times have you answered that question and told somebody you own a 7-Eleven?
About 5. About 5. Well, the number of times I've told different stories just to cover it, I'm not ashamed of it, because look, when you're protecting yourself, you need to be able to sell the story.
100%.
And you've got to do it. You've got to do it. I mean, I'm a mechanic. I've done that story as well. Oh, I'm a mechanic. I fix cars. And answer basic questions. Yeah, I can do this. I can do this. I can actually do what I say I do, but I keep it limited just to make sure that I get that trust level and I get the information I need out of somebody else.
Right.
So before we move into the next couple segments, just a couple quick things. We got some messages from people asking about our Signal chat, and I forgot to mention it earlier. Go to survivaldispatch.news. That's our Substack. You can sign up for a free account. You get our daily sit reps. You get all the instructional videos from JJ Morris. You get our Saturday watch guide, lists everything we put out. But if you sign up for $7.99 a month or $74.99 a year, you get 2.5 months for free. One of the things you get is an invite to our super busy Signal chat, where the volume of intelligence that is shared is absolutely off the chain. It's insane. On top of that, you get all 37 of our Survival Dispatch Insider e-magazines. They sell for $10 a piece, so you're getting $370 in very polished, high-end e-magazines. You also get all the sources to our sit reps, but normally the sit rep ends at my signature, but the links that we use to put our research together are included for Guardians. That's what the membership's called. And the last thing is you get automatically enrolled in the SDEN system, which is Survival Dispatch Emergency Notification System. We used it when we hit Iran because we were worried about sleeper cells lighting up in a retaliatory fashion here in America. I want to show a couple really quick things to people here. Number one, I don't know if you've seen this or not before, Roman, but this is a card game, and we usually read a question from one of the cards each night. Conflictedthegame.com. So you'll get a kick out of this, Roman. All of these, there's 14 decks. Each deck is set in some sort of post-apocalyptic scenario, and each question typically has something from a moral perspective. So, for example, let's say that you had a shelter, okay, Roman, and we just got hit with nukes, and you and your family were going into the shelter, and there was enough room for you and your family and enough food for you and your family. And all of a sudden a neighbor comes along and puts their foot between the door before you can close it, saying, we need help, please rescue us. What do? Do you turn them away? Do you accept them in? And now you don't have enough room and food for your own family. You can be very conflicted over it. So the people who started this is hilarious. They made a fair bit of money in Utah in commercial real estate. So they semi-retired, moved to northern Idaho, bought a 380 acre parcel of land that's in the middle of nowhere. It's like 30 minutes to get to the local gas station and another 30 minutes from there to get to an actual town. So when the neighbors would come and introduce themselves and they'd invite them over for dinner, they would play this game. And they had one of their neighbors where he was asked a question and his answer was, well, I don't prep anything. I don't stock anything up. I mean, if the shit hits the fan, I'm just going to take whatever I want by gunpoint. And in their minds, their inner monologue is saying, well, that's the last time you ever invited to our place for dinner. So,
that's a good way to vet people right there. While you're playing poker, just whip out the other deck, right? Be like, hey guys, a quick little thing. This is so funny. Like somebody just sent me this as a gift. It's so funny. Let's do one of these cards, right? You pre-plan the card. Yeah. Right, for something, for like a moral thing where you're drawing the line on whether you're going to like the person or not, right? And you ask the question and just see how they respond. And if they don't respond, the right way with the same values that you have, then that's not the right person for your group.
Not the right person.
It's surprisingly effective, Roman. It's really cool. The other thing I want to mention, just as a cheaper option that also uses the Iridium satellites, is the Garmin InReach Mini 2. Somebody said something in the chat there you go, that the Garmin Mini's end of line. Yeah, it is. The first one is, not the Mini 2 isn't. You can start and stop your subscription to these with no penalties, just like Starlink. We have Starlink for our backup here as well. And I pay $12 a month from this. And I've yet to find a spot where I couldn't connect to the satellite. So it tethers to your phone. So if you have one and your wife has one and you've tethered it to your phone, the phone network doesn't need to be up. Your phone is using this as a modem to the Iridium satellite network, which is a private satellite network. It goes from you up to the satellite and then straight down to your wife and her Garmin, which is attached to her phone, sort of thing. So it's a pretty economical option at $349, $12 a month, but you can send and receive text. And then you can also get detailed maps and GPS stuff, which pulls off the government satellite network. And if the Chinese were to take out some of our satellites, there's a lot of wargaming going on in space right now, like serious wargaming, where the Chinese are running basically drills against their own satellites and putting countermeasures and things in place, because at the end of the day, if the Chinese or Russians were able to take out our satellites for guiding our missiles and we're able to take out our aircraft carriers, we're in deep, deep trouble. Those are the two big things that kind of keep us in the game. So apologies for going a little bit long on that. And I'm going to accelerate us here through segment 4, which is securing water, food, shelter, and defense. So at a bare minimum, 1 gallon of water, potable water per day per person. That doesn't include things like hygiene, doesn't include things like putting it in the back of your commode to flush it if there's no water. In that case, go get yourself a water bob off of Amazon. They're about $35. 100 gallons is a big plastic deal, and it's got a hand pump on it, so you can pump at least whatever water you got from your municipal supply out of it for cooking, those sort of things. Food wise, you guys have heard us talk about this a lot of times. Roman, you're going to like this. This is a startup company. They're at carnivault.com. And I don't know if you have freeze dryers or not. We have 2 freeze dryers. And when you freeze dry meat, the problem is that you can't freeze dry the fat to the point where it won't spoil the meat that's in the Mylar bag with the O2 absorber. Okay. So these guys they've got their own engineers on staff, and Dean and Mike are super guys, but check this out. So 100% American across the board, 100% American bags, O2 absorbers. The meat is from American ranchers, no mRNA, no antibiotics, no histamines, none of the bad stuff in it whatsoever. If you get to 0.8% moisture content in something, the USDA will let you say it has a 25-year shelf life. It has to be from an accredited facility. These guys are now down to 0.12% moisture content. So technically it's got a 40-year shelf life. This is 6 ounces of steak that when you reconstitute it, takes 5 to 10 minutes to reconstitute it, creates 1.5 pounds of raw steak, and you can flavor it however you want. They've got chicken and pork as well, and they've got single serve packets coming out next week. If you want good whole food that's not ultra processed crap, this is it. And even if you're not stacking it up as a prepper, the single servings you'll be able to take with you off grid. If you're hunting, you're fishing, you're overlanding, whatever the case may be. And look at Mike Glover's video on it. And we published one from JJ Morris as well. And we have another one coming from JJ Morris on that as well. Shameless plug for our friends at Carnival. Full disclosure, they give us a monthly stipend to help us defer costs. Roman's self-employed, so he knows we spend a shit ton of money on software, right, Roman, as a business owner.
Don't get me started on software. It's astronomical. But Carnival looks awesome. I want to get some of that because I invested in a bunch of like lower grade, like many years worth, right? But not the best survival food. One thing that I did implement, which I think is kind of unique, I don't see too many people in the preparedness space doing, is I got a whole bunch of sproutable seeds, right? Because a lot of this type of food is going to really mess with your digestive system. You really need some fiber to wash it all down, some vitamins, right? So I got these seeds stored away in freezers, and they should be good for like 15 years in a freezer, my understanding. Hundreds of pounds. It's emergency salad, right? Yep. You add a little bit of water, swash it around. In 2 days, you have all these sprouts full of vitamins, minerals, and everything else you need just to keep your digestive system running. Because, you know, if the food system goes down and you're living off of survival food for even a couple of months, it's going to jack up your stomach. So you have to keep that in mind. Also, probiotics, very important, guys. Make sure to stock up on probiotics, digestive enzymes to help you break this stuff down.
Hey, I've got something else for you to add to your calculus on this, Roman. So this is the video that Mike Glover did. I just put the link out there. And by the way, on the Carnival, you can get 10% off and free shipping over $99 with the code EATMEAT, all one word. So when Mike did this video, he's comparing trail food, for lack of a better term, all the stuff like Peak tastes really, really good. And he said, man, the flavor of this is really great, but it had something like 1,300 milligrams of sodium in it. So if you're eating that 2 or 3 times a day and going way over what you should take for sodium, not to be, gross, and Mike makes a point of it though, you'll be constipated like there's no tomorrow. So makes the fiber that much more important as well if you're taking in high sodium. The stuff from these guys, it's unflavored. We just struck a deal with Redmond Life, who their salt products are all from just outside of Provo, Utah. And you'll get a kick out of this one, Roman. If you take Himalayan pink salt, it all comes from Pakistan, where Khalid is right now, and you crush it up and you take a strong magnet, it will pull all kinds of metal fragments out of it. Every last bottle of Himalayan pink salt in America comes from Pakistan. It was mined using explosives. It's carcinogenic, and it's got metal fragments in it. When the guys at Carnival did it, they were like, I told them to try it, and they're like, holy shit, I can't believe this. There's all kinds of metal in this salt. And the white salt that comes from China, same thing. They both use explosives to mine their salt. Redmond doesn't do that. And it's basically, they have some crazy salts like smoked salt that's amazing. You put the food in an air fryer for 3 minutes with this smoked salt. It tastes like it's been in a smoker for 24 hours. So impressive.
I've been using Himalayan salt for a couple of years now. So you just blew my mind a little bit. I'm going to have to go home and have a talk with the wife about Himalayan salt.
Yeah, go to redmond.life. I don't have any, affiliate relationship with them, but they're awesome people, and their products are amazing. But the guys from Carnival, they're going to start shipping some Redmond samples, these little shakers that are good for 10 or 12 meals, way more than what you get in the bag. But wanted to just pull a couple things up quickly here. I showed you Mike's video. For those of you out there who heard Roman mention is MRAP, pimping out his MRAP. That's pretty awesome, by the way. Yeah.
And guys, we will be showing off the MRAP. It should be done in time for SHOT Show. So part of our booth for 2026 SHOT Show is going to be the MRAP in the middle of it. I mean, we're doing everything to this thing. We're putting a 50 cal machine gun up top, an M2. We've got thermal vision, night vision. We've got a breaching ram in the front that deploys tear gas. It's fully armored for 50 caliber. It's going to have a life sustainment system for CBRN protection. This will be unlike anything else out there. And it's really one of only 30 MRAPs in civilian hands in the United States. So it's going to be a really fun project.
So if I start calling you Uncle Roman, is there any chance I could have it like on the weekend or something? I promise I can't promise, but I might give it back to you, sort of thing. But yeah, that's pretty awesome. So
we'll be doing events with it too. So our plan with it is to do some content, get some other influencers involved, right? And kind of do some fun events with it. So if you're interested in doing something like that, Chris, we'd love to have you.
Well, 100%, totally down with that. So long story short, segment 4, securing food, water, shelter, and defense. So the only other things I would add to the food piece is make sure you have some stuff that's hidden. Don't put it all in the same place and, end up getting robbed and losing all of your stuff. Make sure you've got something on your property from a target hardening perspective, motion lighting, that's run by solar if the grid goes down, neighborhood patrols if possible, visible deterrence. And an example of visible deterrent would be, we live in Florida. We have these palm trees called robolinis. Robolinis have 3 to 4 inch needles on them this long that will go through leather, canvas, it doesn't matter what it is, and stick you full of poison. You stick robolinis under your windows, I'm telling you right now, nobody's smashing the window out and getting into your home in that manner. There's a lot of things you can do from a tactical landscaping, perspective. Make sure you have evac routes planned. And I can't overstate how important it is to have something in place for hygiene. But like we've talked about, people who are, stuck on the ankle express, there's absolutely nothing better than having clean, dry socks to put on, because once your feet go, you're in deep, deep trouble if you're on the ankle express. But hygiene keeps morale up. It also keeps other things at bay, which are obviously I don't need to get into. So questions for you guys. How much water and food do both of you think people should have? And we'll leave it at that, and we'll go to segment 5, which is the final one after your answers. So Khalid, I'll come to you first, and then Roman, you. Same question, though. How much food and water should families realistic have stored up?
I keep a 25-liter plastic jerry cans. Whenever we know there's a storm coming in, we fill them up and we put them away, because we don't know when we're going to have electricity back again or what the condition of the water is going to be. In terms of water used for bathroom or hygiene, we keep buckets, and those are filled up whenever we know there's a storm rolling in. Like if we start seeing rain fall, we start filling buckets, because we know that if we lose power, it could be 2 days before it comes back again. That's the kind of country we live in. So, I mean, we're running from that mentality every day. It's not a preparedness for us. It's when we see it start, we start packing up.
Mm-hmm. Good advice. I appreciate that. So, Roman, your thoughts on how much the average family should have set aside?
I think the bare minimum someone should aim for is at least a month, right? A month of water, a month of food. If you can get some water storage on your property, if you have property, personally, I have about 5,000 gallons, right? But that's connected to my well water and everything else. That's a more advanced system. That's not something that, is an easy thing to implement. Easiest thing to implement is rainwater catch with some, systems to hold the water, and then a way to disinfect the water, whether it be a gravity filter, even a catadine filter, and water treatment tablets as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. So we got a little bit of breaking news here that I got to share. Let me switch over to the other screen here. And Dr. Michael Fabian's actually the one who brought this to my attention. The U.S. Naval Academy on lockdown after threats, authorities investigating. And play a little bit of the video there for you, but you can see you've got law enforcement officers with rifles moving around there. Below that, the first post, we truly live in a sick society. I guess this is a new normal Thursday in America. Can we at least have 2 hours to breathe in between the chaos? I just caught this from my buddy, Dr. Fabian. if this proves to be a hoax, like many of the ones that have been at the colleges, no ifs, ands, or buts. It's a probing exercise where Al Qaeda, ISIS, these guys are looking to see how long does it take for the cops to show up, or how long does it take for the MPs to show up? Where do they come from? How are they armed? All of their SOPs. It's unsettling. And what this girl says there, well, it is the new the new thing in America. So I'm going to get off of that and get your comments on that, Khalid, because I know it's breaking news and I want to wrap up the topic at hand, but this is now escalating beyond just college campuses.
If you remember last night, Chris, when we were talking after the broadcast, everything that's happening is centered on the East Coast.
Shots fired. The shots fired at the Naval Academy, just so you know.
Yeah, that's this is the final testing. They've gotten to where they need to get to, and this is final test. Because if you look at today, everything's East Coast.
There's a shooter going through one of the buildings, knocking on each door, telling people he's a cop, and then shooting them when they answer the door.
We said this earlier.
We literally just talked about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going off of what's being put out there on X, so don't take my word for it. We'll have more information on it. But sorry, back to you, Khalid.
Before we came live on broadcast tonight, I was in an X space listening, and they were talking about a guy dressed as a cop going door to door in a dorm and knocking on doors, saying, "I'm a cop." As soon as the door opened up, they'd shoot whoever opened the door. And the reason I bring it up is because we have spent so many episodes talking about this, that you need to be careful with a imposter law enforcement officer. And it's sick and scary that everything we have said in every episode has come to pass. And if people are still not paying attention, you're just offering yourself up for trouble.
Yeah, I just wanted a clarification. This is at Naval Academy in Annapolis, by the way. And looks like it's initially kicked off 2 hours ago, but inside the past hours, when all the stuff is being posted with regards to shots fired, they're reporting 3 casualties so far. The new normal. Absolutely. It's brutal. So I want to quickly wrap up segment 4. We're going to segment 5, which is the end. So just a little bit of advice here beyond what we already did. Actually, no, we made it through all of the points there. My apologies. Just getting back on track here. So we're going to go into segment 5. It's the last segment. Community cohesion, long-term recovery. So you're going to have the need for psychological first aid, trauma support for both adults and children. There's going to have to be people assuming leadership roles. This should be decided in advance, whether you have a mutual assistance group or something else to that effect. You want to avoid getting into power struggles. And the only way to do that is have your own SOPs laid out in advance. You got to celebrate any small wins that you get to keep your morale high. Prepare for refugees, fleeing urban areas. So we're not too far north of Daytona Beach, aka Daytona Beach. We call it Daytona Beach because it's the most dangerous city in the state of Florida with a population under 100,000. If you go to Daytona Beach, I don't think Google offers this anymore, but you used to be able to punch in murders near me. And other than Pelican Bay, which is a large gated community that we used to live in, everything outside of it is solid bubbles. The murders are off the chain, whereas we live in the safest city in the state of Florida with the lowest crime rate by an order of magnitude. And what happens is when you end up having hurricanes and people are looking for stuff, they come out of Daytona in this direction and they steal people's generators and all kinds of stuff like that. So bottom line is even after things appear to come back online again, they may not stay that way. And we have that happen during hurricane season here. When a hurricane comes through, let's say it hits us, the eye hits us middle of the night, knocks our, third world power grid down. We get up in the morning, we activate all of our stuff that we have for backup electricity. And lo and behold, it comes back on in the afternoon. And then for no reason known to us, an hour later it takes a crap and it's gone again. Like, just, you got to be prepared for things being longer than they would appear. So I've got one question for each of you. And Roman, I want to ask you, what leadership traits, because you're a leader, what leadership traits are most valuable in long-term crisis situations?
For long-term crisis, the ability to bring people together. I mean, it may sound cheesy, but that's really what it is. It's the ability to hear people out. At the end of the day, we're all humans. We want to be heard. We all have concerns. We all have dreams, aspirations. We all have our own things that make us tick, right? So for leadership, you have to speak to everybody as though they're human. Remember that they have their own way of thinking of things, right? But also try to make sure that they're civil and they're able to kind of come to a greater consensus, because at that point, it's going to be more about the team as opposed to any individual needs.
You have a team at MIRA, and your job as a leader is to maintain cohesion, progress forward, make everything work. But as an employer, I'm sure you can confirm this, you own your employees' problems. And that's part of the role, right? Somebody has a death in the family and they have to leave and they have to go halfway across the country for several days or a week because of a death. That's now your problem to backfill things from a productivity perspective, right? Like, so cohesion, I like how the way you put it though, humanity, that's a good one. Well done. Kudos on that one. So then the next question to you, Khalid, is how do you prevent a group from splintering in the long term?
You've got to listen. When you lead, part of leading is understanding. I mean, you've got to maintain command, but to maintain command, you've got to listen to everybody around you, because you're not going to hear everything until it's too late. So if you keep a watch and you keep your ear to the ground and listen to what people are talking about, where they're feeling pain, where they're feeling problems at, you'll keep the group from splintering. But if you're trying to elevate yourself above the problems, that group's going to splinter very quickly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. So, Roman, that's the end of the main topic. We have a couple things to cover: the hero of the day, reader-supported news item of the day, and then we'll put a lid on this. And I'd like you to provide input on those if you have the time, but I'd like to get your final thoughts on, we're in this, post-terrorist attack scenario, the grid's down, the supply chain's broken, all the things that we laid out there. Do you have any parting words of wisdom?
I mean, I tie it all back to my faith, man. I'm a God-fearing Christian. I pray, and certain problems are too big to just hold onto your own shoulders. And I let it go off of my shoulders and I give it unto God, right? I pray about it. I ask him for clarity. And I pray with my group, right? I pray with my group. I pray with my family. The family unit is the most important unit in my mind's eye, right? Strong families lead to strong communities, and strong communities lead to strong nations, strong cities. So that's where I'll leave it off at. Really focus in on prayer.
So a friend of mine, Roman, who has a bunch of employees, really, really smart guy, he said to me, he said, years ago when something went off the rails, I would get mad and think about how can I, get revenge on this person. And he said, he wasted a lot of his life doing this. And then somebody said to him, what are you doing, asshole? Like, you're burning up all of this energy, instead of moving forward, you're moving backwards and you're trying to seek retribution and stuff. And here's what the guy said to him. He left him with the thought. He said, let God fight those battles and you'll be fine. And he said, you wouldn't believe it. He said, shortly after that, you had an employee embezzle money, if I remember correctly. And instead of going after him with both guns blazing, next thing you know what it was? It was he had invested with this guy and the guy stole $200,000 from him. And he basically left it in God's hands. And he said 6 months later, the guy was declaring bankruptcy. He lost his home, lost all of his cars. didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of him. He was like, holy shit, that guy was right. Just let God fight it and move on to something more productive. So
yeah, let go and let God. That's one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah, and that's
one of mine as well. Yeah, that's one of mine as well.
Very concise. So, Khalid, your final thoughts before we move on to the hero of the day.
Well, look, it's the more you stay in your senses, the more you plan, the more you prepare, the better off you're going to be. This is not something you can do overnight. This takes time. It takes effort. It takes dedication to get to a point where you can sustain your family, take in outsiders, build a network. This is something it takes time to do. And this is what we've been saying for the past 2 months is start now, start now, start now. Before it all hits the fan, start now. And a lot of people have, and I'm really thankful for that. But the people that haven't, start now, because this is coming. Whether you like it or not, it is coming.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's not, putting out doom and gloom. Khalid has a team, boots on the ground in Afghanistan, gathering intel. Sarah Adams gets the bulk of her intel from Khalid's team. So it's not something that somebody's dreamed up. So I could not think of a better person to honor tonight as the hero of the day than Charlie Kirk. He accomplished an awful lot in 31 years. He dedicated his life to engaging young Americans in meaningful dialogue. The guy was the slickest debater I think I've ever seen in my life. He never backed down from hostile environments, difficult conversations. He always had courage in all of those situations. So I've got a couple videos queued up. This one is 18 seconds. They're not very long videos, but what Charlie Kirk wants to be remembered for.
How do you want to be remembered? If I die, everything just goes away. How would you, if you could be associated with one thing, how would you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. The most important thing is my faith in my life.
Charlie Kirk, thank you so much.
You guys do a great job.
So that's the first one. Here's the second one, is 1 minute and 14 seconds long. And the original person who posted this, Make America Christian Again, 1 minute, 14 seconds.
Spiritual battle is coming to the West. And the enemies are wokeism or Marxism combining with Islamism to go after what we call the American way of life. And the American way of life is very simple. I want to be able to get married, buy a home, have kids, allow them to ride their bike till the sun goes down, send them to a good school, have a low crime neighborhood, not to have my kid be taught the lesbian, gay, transgender garbage in their school, while also not having them have to hear the Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day. That's important. We want the American way of life, which is, by the way, Christendom. Christians, our sacrifice, our toil, our vision, the outgrowth of the scriptures gave us Western civilization. And this is where I think is a great rallying cry. Doesn't matter if you're Hispanic, doesn't matter if you're Asian, doesn't matter if you're black or white. Everybody, if you are Christian and Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, these two threats are combining forces to come after us. And it's time that the church stands and rises up against it.
Yep. So very well said. And last one is only 33 seconds long. Kirk predicts who will try to kill him.
At the core of the left, at the core of a liberal, is someone that would use the sword if they had it. They are very violent people at their core. They always have been. They can't debate. They can't have conversation. So they'll resort to these tactics. They're going to do everything they possibly can to try to murder this movement because they can't beat us. So they're going to try to take weapons. And no, we're very aware of that. I'm aware of it. We have to have full-time security. This is not a joke. This is who these people are.
When America needed a hero, God sent us Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec. So I don't think we need to add anything on that, but I would like to hear y'all's comments on this. So as we've mentioned, we have a super busy private signal chat for Guardians. Just go to survivaldispatch.news. Lots of free content, but if you sign up for $7.99 a year or $7.99 a month, $74.99 a year, you get 2.5 months for free. So Tim Smith has been a just an amazing addition to our group. Wouldn't you say, Khalid?
Yeah. Tim and Dale, these guys are great.
I don't know, like the guy's up for work at 2 a.m. in the morning, cranks out incredible stuff, Roman. This guy's super high energy. We have a bunch of guys that are, and girls that are, I mean, just killing it. There's a guy named Dale. He's up at Dark 30 posting all kinds of, news and intelligence stuff. Dee Dee, Astro Mom, so on and so forth. It's really vibrant, but this isn't news that he took from somewhere. This is something that Tim typed up himself after the incident in Charlotte. And I want to get both your comments on this after I quickly read it here. So as you can see, it's a bit of an eye test, but as you can see, no one is coming to save you. It's the poor Ukrainian girl bleeding to death on the public transit. And here are Tim's words. Everyone needs to take their self-defense serious. There's people out there that hate us for a lot of reasons. One, when in public, get off these weapons of mass distraction, meaning these things. When you are on these, your gut feeling or intuition is greatly reduced or totally turned off. Earbuds, with these, you absolutely can't hear what's going on around you. The day of being distracted is over. Number two, don't sit near people or sit with your back to the wall. Don't sit near people. Instead, sit with your back to the wall so you can see everything going on around you. And don't look like or give off vibes like you're a victim. Carry that look that you will fight back. And number three, have self-defense tools on you that can be easily accessed. This will help you to an escape route. Also, you should be trained with them. Become street smart. Roman, did you ever think that we'd get to this point in America where we'd have senseless attacks like that?
Well, I don't think this is the first time this happened.
It's not.
I'm fairly certain that there have been many instances of this. It's just certain situations get more media coverage than others, right? Not trying to take away anything from what happened. It's horrific. It's the stuff of nightmares, right? But also realize that the media likes to play people at certain times, right? It's literally a musical instrument that they can manipulate to their own whim in order to get a certain reaction out of you, a certain emotion out of you, right?
So based on you not following the news,
yeah,
the legacy media did zero coverage on this girl being murdered. So there was a black guy who'd had a long history of violence, was released 14 times by a magistrate in North Carolina, where you do not have to have a license to practice law and you don't have to pass the bar exam. And this has been completely memory hold. It wasn't even mentioned on most mainstream media. Reverse the roles. What happens if the guy behind her is a white guy and that's a black guy or a black girl who's getting stabbed in the neck? The entire country would be crippled right now because that's all you'd see on legacy media.
Once again, it's all how they play it,
100%.
right? And the big media conglomerates, they're all in on it. And at times, both the right and the left are funded by the same exact people. So they choose what they present to you. They choose the perfect time when they present things to you, right? That's why I don't follow it anymore, because I realize that at the end of the day, it's all a dog and pony show.
Theater.
Right? It's weapons of mass distraction.
So I'm a little bit older than you, Roman. I'm 56, but when I grew up, there were over 500 independent news organizations in America, like independently owned. You now have half a dozen conglomerates, like you mentioned, BlackRock, Vanguard, and others that own 99.9% of legacy media. And I used to say, Roman, like 20 years ago, I would say legacy media, best case scenario is infotainment, worst case scenario, it's propagandatainment. It's 100% propagandatainment now. So I couldn't agree more with you. Khalid, do you want to chime in on that before we wrap things up?
Roman hit that dead on.
I agree. So that's the end of our episode here tonight. I would encourage you to head on over to mirasafety.com. So MIRA safety.com. And I'm not saying you have to go buy anything from Roman or anything like that. It'd be good if you did, but either way, sign up for his newsletter. I was blown away when I signed up for it, I think maybe 3 years ago, Roman, and looking at it going, I thought these guys like sold PPE. Like, this is some pretty compelling content. So whoever's writing your stuff, whether it's you or otherwise, it's really high quality. And I really encourage people, go sign up for Roman's newsletter. You'll get a lot of value out of it. Final words, Roman, and final words.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you having me on. We've been in contact for a little while, so really appreciate you having me on your podcast here. And if anybody in the audience does want to buy something, they can use the code PROTECT for anything that's not on sale to get an extra 10% off. I think the already on sale items don't qualify for that, but anything not on sale, use coupon code PROTECT and you get 10%.
I'm writing that down myself. Thanks. Khalid, anything final words you want to say tonight?
Look, we're headed towards trouble. And the more you get ready, the more you understand that people are trying to ratchet up the heat on you. That's all social media is doing right now. If you were to take my advice, get off your phone for 2 days. Don't even touch social media, because all they're trying to do is ratchet everybody up. And the more you stay away from it, and the more you stay away from your television, the more calmness you're going to have in here. So, I mean, my tip, my last thing is, look, right now, if you can't control yourself, then put the stuff away and don't even look at it, because they're just trying to incite you. And it's the incitement they want. Once they've got the incitement, they've got the excuse.
Yeah, well said, Khalid. So we'll be back tomorrow evening at the usual time, 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll have the next episode in our long war series, and it's martial law, FEMA camps, federal overreach, essentially the post-attack political terrain, legal terrain. We're going to be talking lockdowns, checkpoints, confiscations, suspended rights. Think Patriot Act 2.0, making Patriot Act 1.0 look like a walk in the park. We're going to go through some likely scenarios and practical safeguards for you, so that you don't get swept up in losing all of your constitutional and civil liberties. I want to thank everybody out there as a paying Guardian member. I want to thank our sponsors for tonight's show, CCW Safe, best self-defense coverage bar none. If you have self-defense insurance, it's not worth the paper it's written on. Get rid of it and get self-defense coverage. Look for a recoupment clause if you have. It's in there. Look for a recoupment clause in your policy if you have self-defense insurance. And, of course, Carnivalt as well. That's it. Do me a favor and mash the like button on whatever platform you're on. So between tonight and tomorrow night, again, please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless America, and enjoy the closing video. Thanks, Roman.
Thank you, guys.
They have unsuccessfully tried to take down the wrong person.
He's absolutely going to come back with full vengeance the next time around.
Now think about what 4 years of a retribution presidency might look like. Our Constitution really does give president tremendous power to destroy. This will be something we could never have imagined.
Now the gloves are off.
Some of Trump's close political allies told him they are working on figuring out the identities of the FBI and DOJ staff and forming lists.
I will direct a completely overhauled DOJ to investigate every radical DA and HE in America for their illegal, racist enforcement of the law. The deep state is destroying our nation, but the tables must turn, and we will quickly destroy the deep state. We know where the bodies are buried. There are a lot of people out there that have done some very, very evil things, very bad things, I would say treasonous things against our country. People that have done such harm to our country. I've been looking at them for a long time.
He could order the investigation and prosecution of individuals who he sees as enemies.
Put them all in jail where they belong. You gotta get tough and smart, and you have to fight fire with fire. You can't allow this to go on. take care of it.